Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Once a DJ. If you'd like to support the show, then head to onceadj.com/support to find out how you can help. If you'd like to get in touch with any feedback or suggestions, email onceadjpodcast@gmail.com. Once a DJ is produced by the good people at Remote Control. If you'd like to find out more about working with them, head to remote-ctrl.co.uk. Time for the show.
Nice.
Okay, so I'm here with turntablist, party DJ, VJ, producer, and much more, DJ Yoda. Thanks so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's my pleasure. And hello.
So let's get cracking then. So as I may have mentioned the other day, what we're going to look at on this is the before, the middle, the later life of DJing. Obviously, later life's relative. But basically where it sits in these different parts of our lives. So the first thing for me is just looking at how you got into DJing.
Yeah, sure. I feel like I've told this story many times, but I'll tell it to you again. Let's see if I can add a different twist on it. My parents were both in the music industry. My dad was a manager of pop acts, and my mum worked for various record producers. And my dad literally kept his record collection in my bedroom. So I was surrounded by records. And I was at gigs and music video shoots and all this stuff as like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old. So surrounded by Top of the Pops and everything. But as soon as I was old enough to kind of develop my own tastes in music, the first thing that I kind of latched onto was, well, at the time in the late 80s, there was this kind of trend of most pop songs having a kind of hip hop remix. And that inevitably meant a lot of kind of samples from kind of kitsch old movies or cartoons or 50s stuff. Scratching it and stuff, you would get it with like, it was the likes of like S Express and Bomb the Bass and Cold Cut and all these people that were working in that kind of bass world. And that's the stuff that really jumped out to me. The sound of scratching and the sound of samples coming from all disparate sources. So I started to try and make my own tapes at home. I kind of messed around with my parents' hi-fi and broke it eventually, like trying to learn how to scratch. Yeah. This was obviously like pre-YouTube and internet and even pre-VHS videos teaching you how to DJ. So I was really out there on my own trying to figure this stuff out. I didn't even have friends that was into it, really.
I mean, I remember being around at my mates and he had Fog on the Tyne and Turtle Power with the 245s. I remember him having.
Yeah, I had Turtle Power for 45 for sure. Might have even had doubles.
Thinking in the right way already at that age. Love it. So I think we were just trying to scratch Turtle Power. What were you trying to scratch?
Roll and rapping. Yeah, just like a lot of kind of comedy, hip hop stuff, and just like pop, basically whatever I could get my hands on at that time. And it was just trying to kind of like trying to work out how to sound like a DJ, and it meant getting it really wrong for a long time. In fact, like I reckon I probably not wasted, but like a good year or two of doing totally the wrong thing, because no one was showing me any better. But I kind of still maintain that is useful and a good way to go about things, because it's not useless. You learn what sounds bad, which is useful. It's important to know what not to do.
Yeah, and I think if you're not learning in an academic way, you probably learn to trust your ear more. Like I noticed it when I learned guitar, I knew a little bit of music theory. I learned a certain amount of guitar and didn't really push on from there because I couldn't be asked to learn any more sophisticated scales and things.
Right.
And I didn't really want to put the work in. But equally, because I'd done a little bit of theory, it was damning as well, because I knew too much to just forget it and just trust the sound.
Yeah, I think that, like, you know, there's various ways of going about things. You can do it whatever way fits you, but I've always found the same thing. Like, I tried to learn harmonica at one point and had exactly what you just described with guitar. I just reached a point where I was like, the theory is ruining this for me. It's not the way that I want to go about doing it. So DJing, yeah, I just kind of like felt my own way. And then I think because of that, came up with my own way of doing things that's just me, you know, that's my style.
Yeah.
And that really helped me to kind of like, because I think if you try to learn now off YouTube and from DJ courses and all these kind of multitude of ways that are out there to teach people to DJ, they're going to teach you the way that they do it, and then you're going to be like them. I mean, it seems pretty obvious when you say it out loud, but if you figure stuff out your own way, you're going to have this like weird way of doing stuff that will make you. So I think that there was some benefit to that.
Have you seen that guy who's like a clone of Qbert? He dresses like him, he scratches like him, and obviously being able to scratch like Qbert's incredible, but it's also a bit like, I don't know, like what's the point?
It's also like one of the kind of like basic fundamental like things about hip hop is you don't bite, you don't copy anyone else's style, you do you.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's, you know, it was a good way to start, I think. And then eventually I kind of met people locally that DJ'd, and people that I still know now, and managed to kind of like have scratch club with friends and practice together and make tapes and everything. So, you know, but having that first bit alone, I think was valuable. And then I made tapes at home and kind of copied them up for mates and everything. And I was like copying up 10 tapes and then 20 tapes and then 50 tapes. And by the time it got to that level, I was like, I took them into record shops in London and then started sending them to record shops around the country.
Where was it, London that you grew up in?
Yeah, I grew up in North London. So I was in Soho at the weekends at the record stores when it was Mr. Bongos and all the other ones around there.
Nice.
So all those places would sell my tapes. And then, yeah, I'd kind of start to figure out, oh, you had like this shop in Bristol was a good one. This shop in Manchester was a good one. And I would start sending tapes everywhere. And that's kind of what started me. So it was really like making mixtapes that started me rather than DJing in clubs or anything like that.
Right. Because I always thought it was like the uni days. So how old would you have been when you were doing the tapes?
Teenager, pre-university. So like, yeah, 17, 18. Then when I got to university, I went to Warwick in the Midlands. That's where I really started getting my experience DJing in clubs, because there was the Thursday nights there at that university was like a kind of, at the time it was acid jazz night, which really dates it massively. But I was a resident at that, and there was, I think that being at a uni like Warwick, which wasn't very cool, actually meant that there was no competition for me in terms of like other hip hop DJs. So if I'd have gone to, you know, Brighton or Bristol or Manchester or somewhere, I think there would have been a lot more people trying to do what I was doing. But because I wasn't really competing against anyone, I had that space to be a resident at that Thursday night, and I would be warm up for all the guest DJs and just basically like learn how to play in front of a crowd. But that was a really good 3-year learning experience. I learned more doing that than I did doing my uni course.
So were you very much strictly hip hop at that point?
Yeah, I think at that point, up until certainly the 90s, I didn't want to know about anything other than hip hop. I was really narrow-minded. I was like, if it has guitars, I don't want to know. If it has like a electronic house type beat, I don't want to know. Just blinkers on, only hip hop. Towards the end of the 90s, when I felt like hip hop started to drop a little bit in terms of quality, I started to kind of explore other types of music, and then work my way backwards with a lot of different types of music as well. And that's when it all kind of opened up to me. And yeah, since then, I kind of like, I consider myself a hip hop DJ in terms of style. In other words, like quick mixing and scratching and like using turntable tricks and everything. But oftentimes I won't play any rap music, or I feel like I can play any kind of music, but like in that hip hop style. So I do like, I go out of my way, in fact, to play like as wide a array of music as I can. So I will do a whole set of 1930s music, or a whole set of just movie themes, or a whole set of kids music, or just anything I could think of. But that kind of like the fundamentals of the way that I play is like a hip hop DJ.
Yeah, because I think that comes through with your mixes as well. Just your style with them and the layering and everything.
Yeah, I try and play anything that I love and try not to label it in terms of like, oh, I should play this kind of thing, I shouldn't play this kind of thing. I just try and stay authentic. If I love something, I'll play it. Yeah,
that can really get in the way, can't it? I even find it sometimes if I'm doing mixes, I'll think, right, I'm going to do a mix of X or Y, and then it...
If you are kind of quite open format in the way that you DJ, it is helpful to theme various mixes, because then it gives you some kind of boundaries to work within, and that's cool. But in terms of like stuff that I would play as a DJ, that's where I try and stay completely open in my mind in terms of like, you know, I think there's probably stuff that I play that other DJs might not, because they would worry that it's not cool. Yeah. Whereas my thinking is like, if you like it and it's cool, it doesn't matter what it is. And there's no such thing as a guilty pleasure, or I hate that idea of guilty pleasures. It's like ridiculous. Just if you like something, you can own that and like it.
Yeah, I feel like between around 16 and 25, when you're finding, I think that's a big part of when you're finding your own identity as a person. I think that's when a lot of these kind of guilty pleasure concept is really prevalent, because you do feel ashamed about saying you like a certain thing. It's only when you get to late 20s that people go, no, I like Girls Aloud or whatever it is, which as a hip hop head, you're going to go,
you know, pop is pop. It's popular, you know.
Yeah.
It's really obvious stuff, but like, you know, it was really interesting watching the documentary that's been on Channel 5 recently about Stock Aitken and Waterman, because it's kind of I feel like there's like a reassessing going on of the stuff that they made in the 80s, which at the time was very much dismissed by kind of musos as, oh, it's cookie cutter, as they just do the same thing again and again and again. But, you know, given some space and some time, it's like, well, hang on a second, how many hit records did they write? That wasn't without skill, you know, like it's not to be sniffed at. It's pretty impressive. And I loved a lot of that stuff and still play a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people are sniffy about it.
Yeah, because didn't Pete Waterman kind of earn his stripes as a soul DJ?
Yeah, they all came from that background, and they all came from a background of respectable, good music. And, you know, I find it hard to kind of like, I think if you've got negative thoughts about anyone doing something creative, you should just shut up about it and keep it to yourself, because it doesn't really help to put that out into the world. Not everything is for everyone. If you don't like something, you can just shut up about it and find something you do like. So that is my...
I've had the day job of marketing and advertising, and you can look at campaigns that another agency's made and you can rip them to pieces, but can you do something better yourself? It's a way different ask.
And it's the same with social media. Like, social media can get tiring, especially Twitter, because it does seem like a bit of a venting place for people to be like, this is rubbish, that's rubbish. Yeah. Whereas you could just be the absolute opposite of that, and the world would be nicer.
Yeah. So what years were you at uni?
Oh God, I have to do maths to tell you that. I feel like I finished in 99 or 2000, but I might be making that up.
You were writing for Fat Lace, weren't you, and Hip Hop Connection? When did that start?
Yeah, that was all around that time as well. Yeah, I would just go to all the kind of big hip hop gigs, and that's how I fell in with all the Fat Lace guys and the Hip Hop Connection guys. And I was always thinking about writing as something that I wanted to do anyway. So I did a lot of music journalism, wrote for a few different magazines. So that was all happening at the same time.
Yeah, awesome. So I got your Cut and Paste Volume 1, and I've been listening back to it today, and it's so tight. Like the scratching on it and just how the mixes are put together.
I've not gone back to listen to any of those things. I don't ever go back to listen to anything that I've done. But I'm sure that it would pain me to do that, because I'd probably think the exact opposite of what you just said. I'd like be dissecting the scratches and thinking, oh God, this is not at all tight. And also the way that was recorded, that and the next 2 cut and paste mixes were pre-computers, pre me having a computer. So I did the whole thing on a 4-track cassette recorder.
Really?
Yeah, there's no like editing on a screen and like tidying things up and everything. It was all just like recorded onto cassette and just play and record, same way that you would make pause tapes with cassettes, which is
That's
really a very old school way of doing it now.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah, I mean, just whatever works for you, and you just get used to whatever, you know, equipment you have at your disposal. And I got fast at the 4-track tapes. Like that was the flow that I worked with.
Yeah, the format's interesting. It's like when there was this revelation when Ninth Wonder was making beats in Fruity Loops. Yeah, and it was just kind of looked down upon, but it's like, it's making great beats.
Whatever works for you. Yeah. Whatever works.
Yeah. So my first touch point was the cut and paste volume 1, and what I loved about it, as well as it being tight, because that was just when I was getting into scratching.
Yeah.
I've just got my first turntable and my first mixer. Didn't get 2 turntables. Who needs 2? And it was really tight, and it was really varied, but it's also really fun. And I think we talked before this, and you said it was never anything kind of intentional to bring that sort of fun and the nostalgia. Because hearing you like doing things like playing things like the A-Team theme, things like that for me were just so on point at the time, because this is when I'd just gone to uni, and you're taking this step into adulthood, the first step into adulthood, I guess, and at the same time Universal re-releasing all the A-Team on video and stuff, so you've got this way to cling on to your childhood a little bit. And then you had things like that coming on, you know, you've got that on with like a big electro beat under it, and it's just all this fun thing that's really, really bringing a lot of fun into hip-hop.
Well, for me, I was just trying to do fun stuff, you know, and there's really no more overthinking it than that. I was like, is this fun or is it boring? If it's boring, what's the point of doing it? So
yeah, totally.
I would try and make mixes and use samples that would bring a smile to my own face, so it was enjoyable to make them. And it sounds like deceptively simple, I guess, but that's all it was. I just try to do funny stuff and stuff that amuse me. At the end of the day, like, you're making music for people, playing music for people. It's supposed to be entertainment. It's not supposed to be like po-faced. It's not supposed to be an education. You're supposed to be like having fun with it, or helping people have fun with it, at least on one level. And certainly making tapes like that, it was like, what stuff would be cool to hear? And a lot of the kind of humor comes in juxtaposing things. So stuff that you might not consider to be very hip hop in its essence, and then mixing it with something that's very hip hop. Like, putting those 2 things together is funny to me, and still is, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's good because it flies in the face of a lot of the sort of hip hop attitude where it's got to be serious or braggadocious or something like that.
Yeah, for years I did think that. I looked at a lot of people in the world of hip hop and thought, why are you so serious? It's probably important to point out that, like, I come from a white middle class background, so I can afford to most of the people working in hip hop, it means something way more serious to them.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of aware of myself within that. You know, I don't think I can look around at other people saying, why are you so serious about hip hop? Perhaps because you grew up around like violence and drugs and guns. You know, like,
sure.
It can be very serious for a lot of people. It can be a lot of things to many different people. But it is a luxury to have grown up, you know, in a safe, nurturing, loving environment, and not be like, have major problems with police or anything, that I can be like, let's have some fun with hip hop, you know? So I think it's, you know, it's important to note that, be aware of myself in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, definitely.
But that said, you know, like, a lot of my favorite rapper growing up was Biz Markie, who was like the comedian of hip hop. You know, there's space for comedy in hip hop, and there's space, you know, hip hop's big enough that it can incorporate everything from, like, you know, militant, like, political stuff to religious stuff to sex stuff to whatever it is. But the stuff that appealed to me was the people that took themselves with a sense of humor and brought some personality and fun to the game. I always like MCs like Redman, or just people that like had big personalities and, you know, good punchlines, and were just, you know, kept it interesting and entertaining.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying Once a DJ. I wanted to create a product for the listeners to be able to support the show, and for the guests as a token of gratitude for being on. So I've teamed up with Sure Shot Shop to create some Once a DJ 45 RPM adapter clamps. These are my weapon of choice as a 45 adapter, as they add stability and grip to aid you in any setup. These are available for £25 each plus flat fee postage from onceadj.bigcartel.com. And if you'd like to see the other models you can buy and also customise, check out sureshotshop.com. If you're an avid collector of timeless music on vinyl but don't have the budget to fork out for those pricey originals, then look no further than Be With Records. From library music to yacht rock, jazz, hip-hop, disco and beyond, Be With lovingly reissue some of the coolest classics. All of their records are carefully remastered and cut to the highest standards to make sure the pressings are of peak audio quality and do justice to the music being released. And something else to note is that they don't do limited runs to drive up resale and hype. If the demand is there, they'll repress, as the focus is the music, not the profit margin. They have flat rate shipping and free UK shipping on orders over £60. And if you head to bewithrecords.com and use the discount code ONCEADJ, all one word, you'll get 10% off your order. So head to bewithrecords.com and level up those crates today. Yeah, so then with the Adventures of DJ Yoda album, on that, you know, you get to work with Biz Markie and Jungle Brothers and people like that. And this isn't, I think nowadays it feels like people are easier to reach. Celebrities are easier to reach, if that's the best word to use for it. What was it like trying to organise working with someone like Biz Markie at that time? I suppose it's before Yo Gabba Gabba and stuff like that, but still, it's Biz Markie.
Yeah, this was my first production album. I'd done a lot of mixtapes up to that point, but I was like, okay, and I'm going to make my own music. And I had a list of people that I wanted to work with. And most of the mission was just tracking down everyone on that list, getting to speak to them, talk about music and get to that point. And so that was the task was as much that as making the music. And there was a different story with everyone that featured on that album. But for Biz, we kind of connected over really specific kind of collections of stuff, because he was really big into his breakfast cereal, which then collected breakfast cereals, which me too, like just like on a level with him on that. And then he also kind of like, he was really into the mixtapes that I was making and would like call me up and ask me questions about parts of tapes that I've done and stuff. And was also really into kind of like kids records, like 70s kids records, Sesame Street and stuff like that. So we had a kind of, in the Venn diagram of stuff, like the stuff in the middle, that was where we met minds and really kind of, so we ended up on the phone quite a lot, and then swapping records and tapes back and forth in the post. And so I did get to do 2 songs with him. One was inspired by breakfast cereal and the other was inspired by Fat Albert, Haunted House kind of Halloween vibes and like kids cartoon kind of thing. So yeah, it was definitely like, it was a dream come true, because like I said, he was my favorite rapper growing up. And it was just, once I'd done those 2 songs with him, I felt a little bit like, I don't know what to do now. Like that's all I was ever trying to achieve out of music. So it was an incredible thing to have happened, for sure. Yeah,
because do you think that time that you had when you were around Top of the Pops and things like that, did that get you used to seeing famous people, and then did it mean that you had a bit more cool about yourself when you were first connecting with Biz?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say, because I think that if you haven't had that experience and you don't know better, to be fawning over people or driving them mad is like exactly the wrong way to be dealing with them. And I probably did have that kind of attitude of just like being cool with people rather than annoying them. So,
It's a hard one. Just as a note on that album, the track that really stands out to me is the Princess Superstar one.
Oh yeah.
I just think it's different, and it's really cool. I just really like the angle of it.
Yeah, I wanted to do something that I was also always into, like very old jazz, like 1920s, 30s, 40s. And it's such old man music. That song's all about being into hip hop and becoming an old age pensioner. And some stuff from that era. So and she was really good fun for that exact same reason that I've explained. Just like she seemed to me someone that had a really good sense of humor about herself and made me laugh. And she did on that song too. God, I haven't heard that song for a long time.
Give me a listen.
I won't.
Get some of that Spotify money.
Yeah, 0.003p.
That was a really good one. So around that time as well, there was a DJ battle in Derby that you came and judged at. That's where I'm based, by the way.
Right.
And that was where DJ Angelo won that. I don't know if you're aware of Angelo.
I'm aware of Angelo, yeah.
Yeah, he was the winner of that one, so it's a good bit of judging. And I was just there in the crowd watching. It was the first time I'd seen Angelo as well, so I was really taken aback.
He's super talented.
Yeah, really good. I'm hoping to get him on in a few weeks. He said he's keen. He's just a busy man. But in that, that was another one where, for me, I saw you did like this little medley sort of routine of TV themes. You had like Blue Peter and stuff like that. And at the time I was just like, just like mind blowing.
I just love TV. I love movie and TV themes because, I mean, okay, if you want to take zoom out and get a bit kind of more existential about it, for me, the thing that's good or valuable about music and films is that they can take you somewhere. Like in your mind, you can be taken totally out of the place that you are. And if you listen to gangster rap, you're incompetent. If you listen to cumbia, you're in South America, it takes you somewhere. And so that kind of use of music in film and TV, it immediately takes you to that place, that TV program or that film. So it's like a shortcut, it'll fast forward you to that, and it's a good way of doing it. So I love soundtracks, and I love including stuff from movies in DJ mixes. And with the video stuff that I do too, just clips from movies, using samples from films in the same way that you would sample bits of music.
Have you got any real favourite TV themes that people might not know?
I mean, it's a deep question for me. My favourite TV theme is Twin Peaks.
Right.
That's definitely my number one. But deep ones, it just goes on forever. I like a lot of the 70s and 80s stuff. That's
that a massive revelation for me, which will probably be no surprise to you given some of the things on your mixes, is Angela, Bob James from Taxi.
Amazing.
That was one of the things that first revealed to me the whole sort of smooth jazz funk CTI sort of side of things.
And have you ever heard Cab Fair by Souls of Mischief?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it samples that. But Bob James is amazing. Massive Bob James fan.
Yeah, he's got a really weird relationship with sampling, hasn't he?
Well, I think he just came around to it. I think he didn't understand it for a long time. And then someone finally sat him down and explained to him his importance. It is unbeknownst to him how important he'd become in a whole different genre of music than what he was working in.
It must be strange just realising that you've got this incredible legacy that you didn't quite know that you had.
Yeah, it must be cool. I mean, it's probably I would have thought it would be cool to find that out.
Yeah. Do you know, is it WKRP Cincinnati?
That sounds, I do. I've got a record with all TV themes on it. It's on that. I just can't kind of hear it in my head. I know I've got it.
It's give that a listen. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
about someone's journey of growth, but with a bit of a Love Boat-esque sort of disco shuffle to it. Yeah,
nice. The other is a random TV theme that I sometimes play when I'm DJing in clubs. Is the IT Crowd.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good one. If you go back to it, you're like, this is pretty funky. Actually, you wouldn't expect this to be good, but it's.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out at volume.
Yeah, that volume.
Because that's one I would not expect.
Yeah.
So while we're on films and things, then is that what led you to then go into the into like the VJing and down that route?
Yeah, well, I think the thing is that those mixtapes that I was making pre-cut and paste, they all had audio samples of films over the beats. So that's what I was doing, like getting bits of Star Wars and Scarface and just any movie that I watched and enjoyed, and finding the good bits and putting them over beats. And then the technology evolved that you could actually mix and scratch the movies themselves. It was from DVD originally. So as soon as that came out, I was like, wow, I can do exactly what I've been doing, but you can be seeing it as well. So it kind of made sense for me to do that. And then the technology only just kind of advanced and got better and better. And now when I DJ, I can DJ with exactly the same setup that I would have for an audio DJ set, but if there's a screen in a venue, then I can make it all video as well. So when I'm loading up my computer with the stuff that I'm going to play when I'm DJing out, I'm as much thinking about music videos or bits from films or TV programs or any YouTube or any kind of like viral crap that we all see every day on social media.
Yeah.
I've got a different part of my brain that's like, that would be good to play in at a festival.
So is it about mid to late 2000s you start doing the VJing?
I'm terrible on dates, as you've probably worked out already.
Yeah.
Whenever the first thing to come out with the DVJs, the Pioneer DVJs, that was the first thing that allowed you to scratch a video.
Right.
So as soon as they came out, I was on it. But even before that, I was doing shows where I kind of re-soundtracked movies. So they'd show the whole movie, and I would work out a DJ set that worked behind the whole film.
Oh, nice.
So I did that with Ferris Bueller's and The Goonies.
So who approached you to do those then, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't know, like whatever venue it was that I did that in. There was cinema.
Right, yeah. So it was cinemas that were asking you.
Yeah.
I
remember doing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Liverpool. Maybe my memory's dreadful. I've got no idea.
Yeah, but you must have done so many gigs in so many different places.
I've got a Word document. I don't know why it's a Word document, but a Word document with every gig that I've ever done listed. Whenever I get booked for a gig, I just type it in that Word document, and it's like, getting up to 60 pages long of just. And so if you were to say, where did you do that with that Ferris Bueller's thing 22 years ago? I feel like I don't, no idea, but it's probably on that list.
Yeah, I guess for you, these sort of touch points that are in my mind are probably so insignificant in yours relation to your journey.
Well, judging a DJ competition in Derby, I've got zero recollection of.
I thought it would be one of your top three. What could be better? But so how did the gigging develop then? Did it become a lot more about festivals than hip hop nights, for example?
Eventually, but that took a long time. I mean, after university, the first thing I did was set up my own club night in London, and that ran for a good few years. It was called Spread Love, and I did that with James Liebens, Rob, who you know, DJ Go. There's a bunch of us, so they became like the underground hip hop, like central London thing. So every week we'd have guests, and in that era of kind of independent rap, whoever was in London from the States at the time would play there. So we had everyone from that scene that you can imagine.
So did that give you some of the connections for, say, like People Under the Stairs and people like that?
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it did. And it was great for that, for like building a community around people that were DJing and doing hip hop stuff. It was really hard work promoting though. I always found that a really like impossible to understand skill. It just felt like the more effort that I put into it, the less people turned up, and vice versa. I just couldn't get my head around it. I'm not a natural business person or promoter like that. But anyway, it was plenty of more of the 10,000 hours, of like just putting in the time in front of crowds and understanding what works and what doesn't work. And then from there, I would get booked for other hip hop clubs all over Europe, everything, like I just got busy from that point. There was like a lot of student union type stuff at the time that I was doing. And then it took years for the kind of like, because the festival kind of scene that we know now, that really developed over the last 15 years or so, I reckon. It didn't really exist at that point, but I would have done the first few festivals, all of those kind of like small festivals that became big.
Yeah,
I was there right from the start of that, and now it's like 500 festivals every summer in the UK, and it's a whole industry that kind of came out of nothing, and that's most of my work now, I would say. Yeah, I mean, I still do all kinds of stuff. I do a lot of more things like film festivals or food festivals or more cultural kind of events than I do clubs, because the kind of music that I play now is probably less suited for 19-year-olds at 2 a.m. and more suited for like 40-year-olds with kids at 6 p.m. So, that's like the niche that I found for myself, and very happily so.
Yeah, I think as you get older, sometimes it can be nice for your body clock. I was speaking to someone the other day who does like 2 afternoon gigs, like Rob does his afternoon gigs on a weekend, and I thought, yeah, that sounds all right, that.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't, at age 45, I couldn't be out there at 3 a.m. playing at clubs, but also just because it's not that club music isn't my passion, I couldn't fake getting excited about the kind of music that people want to hear in that situation. I just want to play music that I love, and luckily that's kind of chimes with the people that want to come and see me play and the kind of places that they do. So it's all very organic. I don't think you can fake any of this stuff.
Yeah, I think people are a bit more almost forever young now. Like when our parents were the age we are now, they probably wouldn't be as in that same mindset of going out to see a band.
No, and I think it's like, it's unprecedented to have DJs that are 60 years old, but now we live in a world where that is the case, and that's cool. That's great. Great for me.
Yeah, definitely. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying Once a DJ. I wanted to create a product for the listeners to be able to support the show, and for the guests as a token of gratitude for being on. So I've teamed up with Sure Shot Shop to create some Once a DJ 45 RPM adapter clamps. These are my weapon of choice as a 45 adapter, as they add stability and grip to aid you in any setup. These are available for £25 each plus flat fee postage from onceadj.bigcartel.com, and if you'd like to see the other models you can buy and also customise, check out sureshotshop.com. If you're an avid collector of timeless music on vinyl but don't have the budget to fork out for those pricey originals, then look no further than Be With Records. From library music to yacht rock, jazz, hip hop, disco and beyond, Be With lovingly reissue some of the coolest classics. All of their records are carefully remastered and cut to the highest standards to make sure the pressings are of peak audio quality and do justice to the music being released. And something else to note is that they don't do limited runs to drive up resale and hype. If the demand is there, they'll repress, as the focus is the music, not the profit margin. They have flat rate shipping and free UK shipping on orders over £60. And if you head to bewithrecords.com and use the discount code ONCEADJ, all one word, you'll get 10% off your order. So head to bewithrecords.com and level up those crates today. So something else I meant to ask about earlier when I was talking about the cut and paste is like your branding. Were you doing like the graphics and things for that? Because that really adds into, like, it's really cohesive with the sound.
So it wasn't me, but it was Barry who worked on Fat Lace. So it was all within the Fat Lace crew, and Barry totally understood what I do, and we talked about it and tried to get across visually what I was doing in terms of the music. It's montage, basically, it's collage and montage, literally cutting and pasting. And I was happy with the look of the cut and paste mixes. I felt like they did get across the sound of those mixes for sure.
Did he help in any way when you started getting further down with the VJing?
No, I found all different people to collaborate with for that, and I constantly do as well. Work with everything from like animators to graphic designers, and the way that I've always worked is just reach out there, like meet as many people as possible, and exchange skills wherever you can, and get bits and pieces from everywhere. And it is like a great big glorious mess. All my video stuff of just, I met this one guy 15 years ago in Argentina who helped me like do this one bit of graphic, and then, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's all bits and pieces in that true cut and paste way.
Awesome. So then something we mentioned when we chatted the other day was about lockdown, and you quite quickly said like lockdown was a pretty terrifying experience.
Well, when when DJing becomes your sole source of income, and all the live stuff stopped, it was scary in terms of like, well, how am I actually going to like make any money? So that was, and also just to have lived that lifestyle for over 20 years of traveling every week, just physically being somewhere in a different city every week without a break really, and to suddenly stop and be still was terrifying in itself. Just catching up on all the crazy places that I've been and stuff that I've done in that last 2 decades. I remember just sitting in the garden and just taking a trip around the world in my head, just like, because I hadn't done it, just like thinking, I was in China and I was in South Africa and I was in Brazil, and when you don't stop, when you carry on week after week, you don't have time to process any of that. So lockdown was mad. But then I got into like streaming, and I couldn't stop DJing like at all, and the fact that there's this kind of like culture developed of people streaming online was really great. So I did that. Did a lot of stuff that I've been meaning to do for years, like selling records that I didn't want, and just sorting stuff out. So we got through it, thank God.
So were you doing Discogs?
Oh yeah, still am. I went through all the record collection and kind of sorted the wheat from the chaff, and about a third of it went up on Discogs, and is still drip selling week by week as we speak, which is satisfying. It's really nice to just cut down the record collection to just the stuff that I actually want.
I did it a few years ago, and I cut down from, obviously it'll be nowhere near your record collection. I probably had about 2,000, and I probably got it down to about, say, 200, if that. Wow. Probably about 200.
Yeah, it's impressive.
And it was very much like, I don't really cut, but for some reason I was like, well, I'd bought a lot of stuff for sampling that I'd never got around to sampling. I'd more or less stopped DJing, which I've kind of gone back into now, but I just thought, would I put this on when I'm cooking?
Yeah, that was my criteria too. I was just thinking, is this a record that I want to play when I'm like sat on my veranda when I'm 70 years old? And a lot of the stuff that I had was just records that I got for free in the early 2000s, and just hip hop that I wouldn't ever play again, stuff like that. So it was, that was really satisfying. And also, like, even in the last couple of years, for the first time, I've got a record player in my lounge at home.
Yeah.
And it's totally changed my idea of a record collection. I'm like, well, all these records that I built up are like records for use, like for using, for DJing. None of them were bought for playing, just from start to finish on both sides. And then I start to think about like, well, what records do you want for that? That's a totally different record collection that I need. So it's just, adjusting the whole thing.
Yeah, I've started this little wants list now, and it's quite small. It's not necessarily cheap, but it's not super expensive. But yeah, it's very different. It's things that I wouldn't necessarily use for DJing. But then some things you get and you think, I got a really good deal on this, but do I really want to take it out of the house to DJ with it?
Yeah, that's a different thing. And not that I've even taken records out, particularly in the last few years. I mean, I get booked for the odd kind of like all vinyl set, and I've got a box of records that I like to take with for that. But the records don't leave the studio, they're all there.
Yeah. So do you still buy with a view to sampling?
Yeah, not like in a big way, just every now and then, and it's just fun to have a dig if you're somewhere that's good for that. But I don't go out of my way to do that anymore, and I only ever really buy records if it's like something that I can't find online.
Yeah, you see, I don't buy too many online. I like going, and it's the unknown.
Yeah,
Like I find different music when I go into a shop.
it's rare that I've got the time, because really to dig is a very time consuming thing. You really got to spend hours.
Yeah.
And I don't find myself with that much time very often, but if I do and I'm somewhere weird where, you know, I'm interested to see what they've got, it does happen. Where was I? I was in Portugal last year and just had a day and just, you know, found some good record stores, and I was like, oh, that's satisfying just to find that time and like come back with some bits. That was cool.
Yeah. Awesome. So how are things now that lockdown's kind of been and gone, and things are in some sort of normality now?
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I just, you know, found back in my groove, you know, like it's always the way that summer's much busier than the rest of the year, but there's like, you know, I'm DJing the amount that I want to be DJing. Winter tends to be quite dead, and I use that time for recording, and I've been really productive this winter, so that's been really satisfying. And now we're just getting back into busy season again, so yeah, things are good.
Yeah, and you've got that podcast record as well, haven't you? It's a really interesting concept that I'm going to get a copy with the kind of golden ticket sort of approach to it.
Yeah, that's all through. Well, my record label is Lewis Recordings, and through them, they released the podcast on vinyl, and also did my last 2 albums. And it's like a comfortable home for me for releasing stuff. It's definitely the right place.
Yeah, because just for anyone who's listening, it's a podcast that's been pressed onto vinyl, and there's a few different editions with the opportunity to win some pretty cool collectibles, like gift bags, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. There's action figures and all kinds of stuff. I put all my old mixes on USBs as well, so you can now buy them from my Bandcamp on a kind of cassette-shaped USB. So just finding like cool ways to have collectible stuff, you know, that's what I would want. So that's the way that we do it.
Yeah, and I think it's a tricky one now, because people are just so used to, right, I spend £15 a month on Spotify, I'm contributing to artists. But I think if you can find other ways to do something special that can pay the artist, I think that's really good.
Exactly, that's the thinking, totally.
Because that must have been a thing for a lot of artists as well during lockdown, just knowing how many people are just investing on Spotify to listen to their music as well.
Well, I know from someone that's got like 5 or 6 albums out, that the money that I see from Spotify is not in any way significant or relevant to my life. It just doesn't pay for living a life. It's not a way to make money.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll let you get off, because I'm sure you're probably pretty busy. But just before I do, can I just ask, are there any key bits of advice that you'd give to anyone who's looking to DJ, or any key learnings that you've taken from it that have just been really valuable outside of DJing?
Yeah, I mean, I've probably kind of touched on this as we've been chatting anyway, but like, to me, the main thing has always been to stay as true to yourself as you can, which means not jumping on bandwagons, like whatever. I've seen so many people in a 25-year career of DJing who've just kind of latched onto something that was cool at the time that then renders them completely irrelevant 3-4 years later. So I've done I think a good job of like navigating between all these different kind of trendy scenes that pop up and just being my own thing. I feel like a bit of an island in the world of everything that goes on. I'm not particularly allied to a certain crowd within music or even a certain sound. So that would be my main thing, is like, if you can just be yourself, then you are a unique snowflake.
Okay, that's just made me think of one more thing, actually.
Go ahead.
Do you think it's easier or harder for a DJ starting now because people have so much access to so much different music. Does a DJ have to have a further spread of musical knowledge, do you think? Or do you think people are more receptive to a DJ that's in a specific lane?
Everyone can access everything now. The technology is so much better, and the access to different music that you want to use as well has completely changed to when I started. So I think you have to balance that with quite a clear vision of what you're trying to do. If you don't want everything, if you the two things you're trying to avoid are, one, sounding like everyone else, and two, just sound like a hot mess with no with no focus. Because it's one thing to be okay, well, I'm not going to do what everyone else is doing. I'm just going to play this random thing, this random thing, this random thing. But if it doesn't all make sense together, then it's a hot mess. So I think really the thing to work on if you're a DJ starting now is what am I trying to achieve here that no one else has done before? What's my idea? What's my focus? What am I trying to achieve with all this? So I think that is a good, valuable thing to be spending time thinking about. And then you can do your best to try and kind of realize that in whatever way works for you.
Awesome.
If that's not too vague.
No, that's absolutely great. Do you want to just give a shout out to your social handles where people can find you online?
Yeah, it's just DJ Yoda UK on everything. So whatever you want to use, I'm at DJ Yoda UK.
Simple and consistent. Awesome. That's great then. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, man. That was a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Once a DJ. If you'd like to support the show, then head to onceadj.com/support to find out how you can help. If you'd like to get in touch with any feedback or suggestions, email onceadjpodcast@gmail.com. Once a DJ is produced by the good people at Remote Control. If you'd like to find out more about working with them, head to remote-ctrl.co.uk.
That was nice.